Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. Well, today we want to talk about the vision that changed the world. Today, as we look at one of the most fascinating moments in the book of Acts, it's a moment that literally led to the founding of the church at Philippi and brought the gospel to the continent of Europe. We see this in Acts chapter 16. The Apostle Paul was on his second missionary journey with Silas. There at Lystra, he found a young man named Timothy that was going to go on the rest of this journey with him. And so the three of them are on their way up through what we would call Turkey today, going to the cities that they had founded the churches in on their first missionary journey several years earlier. And it says, as they went to the cities, they delivered to them the decrees to keep, which were determined by the apostles and the elders at Jerusalem. So the churches were strengthened in the faith and increased in numbers daily. That's the churches that were founded on that first missionary journey. And then verse 6, and when they had gone through Phrygia and the region of Galatia, they were forbidden by the Holy Spirit to preach the word in Asia. And after they had come to Mysia, they tried to go into Bithynia, but the Spirit did not permit them. So passing through Mysia, they came to Troas. And then verse 9, and a vision appeared to Paul in the night. A man of Macedonia stood and pleaded with him, saying, come over to Macedonia and help us. Now, after he had seen the vision, immediately we sought to go to Macedonia, concluding that the Lord had called us to preach the gospel there. In verse 11, therefore, sailing from Troas, we ran a straight course to Samothracia, and the next day came to Neapolis, and from there to Philippi. They're a city in Macedonia. Well, that's the beginning of the church at Philippi. It all began with a vision. First, though, it began with the Holy Spirit forbidding Paul and his companions to speak the word in these other places there in Asia. And so you can imagine the frustration that might have been for Paul, because his plans were to preach the gospel in those areas. And yet God kept stopping him. And finally they got to this place called Troas, and they couldn't go any further. Right there at the end of the land, only the sea there is in front of them. And so the Apostle Paul, it's there though that they meet somebody named Luke, a physician. And Luke joins their journey. You'll notice everything up to there was they in Acts 16. But then we see in this verse 10, immediately we sought to go. And so Luke picks it up there, and he's, of course, the writer of the book of Acts, telling us the stories of the journeys of the Apostle Paul. And so we see sometimes that God has different plans than we have for us. Matter of fact, a couple of my favorite verses in the book of Proverbs are Proverbs 16:3, commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. As we make our plans, we commit what we're doing, and the Lord establish our thoughts and our plans. Proverbs 16:9, the heart of a man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. And then one I think of all the time is Proverbs 20:24. A man's steps are of the Lord. How then can a man understand his own way? So Paul has now clear direction because he sees a vision that changes the world. And God knows we need these visions where God clearly speaks to us and says, don't go that way, go this way. And so as Paul saw that vision, he immediately endeavored to fulfill that vision that God gave to him. Have you had a vision of God speaking to you, God leading you, God directing you, God placing you in a place you never would have actually planned yourself to go to, but God stops, he shuts doors, but when God shuts doors, he opens doors. And so the significance of this moment is amazing, because literally it gets the gospel into Europe, influencing cultures, shaping history, eventually reaching countless people, including many of our own ancestors. Oh, we need to remember that God's guidance sometimes surprises us, and sometimes God's plans are bigger and wiser than ours. Maybe not, sometimes they always are. And we remember, oh God, Oh, we need you to direct our steps today. So let's make sure that we are listening to the voice of the Spirit, and we will pick up a Luke along the way that will be a part of writing 2 books of the New Testament. Who knows what God might do when we obey those heavenly visions that God gives us and directs our steps to the people He wants to hear the gospel. Well, God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.